Yo, it's LT coming at you, and hey, I'm following up on my last video around EQ and IQ, both super important, but to be honest with you, if there's one that you really want to knuckle down on, one that you really want to drive, it's that one, which is your emotional intelligence, especially with how the workforce has been and the world has been over the last 2 weeks. It has been absolute carnage out there for a lot of industries, for a lot of businesses. My heart goes out to a lot of people that have lost their jobs, that have been stood down, that have been made redundant, businesses that are going under, entrepreneurs. It's rough out there, but hang in there. And I think probably the big key takeaway for me is that your emotional intelligence is where this really starts to play out. Now, I've always tried to be the kind of leader that is in touch with their people, that tries to get to know them on that personal level. And it's times like these where it makes it so much easier to be able to reach out to them, to check on them, and even when you're going through the conversations with them, with the transparency of where you're at as a business, as a company, as a team, the conversations become so much easier. The transparency is key. I cannot stress the importance of your EQ and the way that you are able to handle your people, to know your people, to be able to relate to your people. It's not just for these moments, but it comes back to when you're giving them feedback. It comes back to when you're giving them those monthly conversations, if you're doing monthly appraisals, or if you're doing them yearly. Yearly is nowhere near enough. You should be doing it 365 days. Well, technically not 365 because nobody works 365, but you get what I'm saying. Feedback should be something that's been given often. The way that you handle that feedback sessions, the way that you relate to those people and know how to engage with them and have those conversations is what is going to make the difference. Your EQ is really the big one. Now, anyone can be smart, but being able to relate to people and being able to work with your people, that's the big difference. I've worked with a lot of leaders in the past that are absolute shite when it comes to managing people and knowing how to relate to people. They might be great with the execution, they might have brilliant ideas, but they just can't get the people on board, they can't get the people on side. Now, this is where I think it's one of those key things, as I said, that if you're looking to go into a management role, or you're currently in a management role, you have the time now to be able to reflect and think about the last year, the last 10 years, the last 5 years, however long you've been doing it, and look at, do you actually really know your people? Do you know their partners' names? Do you know what they like to do outside of work? Do you actually know how they feel? Can you sense when something's not right with them? Are you able to just pull them aside and have that chat with them and know that you're going to be able to have that chat in a safe environment, and they're not going to feel threatened or worried that something's going on just because you're checking in to see if they're okay? The emotional intelligence in leadership is something that's going to be driven very hard by HR and by organisations over the next 5 to 10 years. So it's something that if you're not strong at it, you can work on it. Really, you need to really show that empathy for people. You need to learn to have that self-awareness. That is what it comes down to. If you're not self-aware about yourself and your leadership style, then you've got some work to do. It's very easy. If you don't know what your people actually think of you, then that's the hard part. If you don't know. The second part is, if you do know and you're not acting on it, then that's on you. There's no way that that's going to change. So you need to really look at what your key skills are, what your weaknesses are, or what your opportunities are, and start to develop those. Because those leaders and those managers and those entrepreneurs and those business owners that have got the strong EQ, that are people-centric, that are people-minded, they're the ones that are going to make the difference. They're the ones that are going to be able to get ahead. Now, thankfully, in the company that I work for, as a leadership team, we are very focused on our people and very focused on our culture. And to be honest with you, of the people that we have had impacted throughout all of this, they've been okay. I mean, in some senses they've not been okay, but because we've been transparent, and because throughout the last, 17 years that we've been in business, and the last 5, 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, 6 months, we've been so focused on the people that it's made it so much easier for these people to be able to hear the conversations that are coming, because we're being transparent. We know what's going on. We know that where we're at, and we've spent the last week reaching out to people to make sure that they're okay. If you're not reaching out to your people during this time, then you need to have a hard look at yourself. Anyway, as always, if you haven't liked and subscribed, hit me up with a heart or a follow, whatever platform you're on. Look for LT Luke T. That's my handle. You'll find me there. I'd really appreciate the follow. And as always, the choice is yours. LT out.